Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping into some difficult territory. Sometimes, even when the official reports are all filed, the biggest, most basic questions about a tragedy, they just hang there.
That's right. They remain unanswered. It leaves families, and really all of us, just searching for a kind of clarity that never quite arrives.
Exactly. An official investigation might close the file, but for the people directly impacted, those lingering whys and hows, they can echo for years, a lifetime even.
Yeah, it's a heavy weight to carry.
And that's the challenging but really essential area we're exploring today. We're focusing on the tragic Extortion 17 mission crash, a devastating loss, including Navy SEAL Michael Strange.
A terrible incident.
Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack one persistent, absolutely crucial question. It was raised by Michael's father, Charles Strange, about the military's investigation after the crash.
Right. We're not just looking at the crash itself, but the follow-up.
We're zeroing in on his specific question and the official responses. Or maybe more accurately, the noticeable lack of response. And we're drawing this directly from our source material.
And what makes the sources here so, well, powerful is their directness.
Yeah.
We have audio excerpts. They capture Charles Strange actually putting his question to the Pentagon.
And the Pentagon's reported reply.
Exactly. It gives you this unfiltered window into that ongoing search for answers. It's quite raw.
And right at the core of Mr. Strange's struggle, something he just couldn't square, was the Pentagon's official line that the Taliban hadn't been tipped off about the mission beforehand.
That's a huge point of contention.
For him, it just didn't track. It didn't make sense given what happened.
And you can see why. I mean, if you doubt that fundamental premise, how the incident even began to unfold, then everything that follows in the investigation, every conclusion, it all becomes questionable, isn't it?
Absolutely. It makes real closure incredibly difficult, maybe impossible for the families involved.
Yeah, how can you find peace with the answers if you doubt the starting point?
So, okay, let's really drill down into the specific interaction that I think highlights so much of this. One of Charles Strange's most direct questions, and frankly it seems completely logical, was this.
Okay.
He asked why Afghans weren't interviewed as part of the military's post-crash investigation. Just think about that. You're investigating a crash site, right? In a specific area.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't talking to the local people right there on the ground, be one of the absolute first things you do, a standard procedure, you'd imagine?
You would absolutely think so. And this is where it gets really, really telling. Because when that exact question was put to the Pentagon, reportedly in a hearing,
Yeah.
the response, according to our sources, was pretty stark. They apparently acknowledged, quote, they did not have a good answer to that.
Wow. Okay. So they admitted they didn't have a good reason.
That's what the source indicates. And they apparently promised to, get back to them on it.
Yeah.
Provide clarification.
Right. Okay. So they'd follow up.
But crucially, the source states that clarification did not get delivered on that particular point. No follow-up answer came.
So an admission of not having an answer, a promise to get one, and then silence.
Precisely. And that silence, well, you can only imagine how deafening that must have been for Mr. Strange.
Absolutely. So think about this from the outside, for you listening. When an official body says, we don't have a good answer to such a basic investigative question, interviewing local witnesses, and then doesn't follow through with the promised explanation,
Yeah.
what does that do to your perception of how thorough that investigation really was? How much trust can you place in its findings?
Well, exactly. And this isn't just about this one specific tragic case, as important as it is. It really highlights a much broader issue, doesn't it? It's about how official investigations are perceived by the public, and especially by those most affected.
Right, the trust factor.
When a critical, specific question like that, coming directly from a grieving father, goes unanswered, it does more than just leave an information gap.
Yeah.
It creates this kind of insidious trust void.
The trust void. Yeah, that's right.
It suggests maybe that the inquiry wasn't as exhaustive as it needed to be, or maybe, that certain difficult truths were perhaps just sidestepped, avoided.
And that kind of omission, that lack of follow-through, it can fundamentally change how you, as a citizen, approach any official report after that. You start to look at them differently.
It really does. It makes you wonder, right? If such a seemingly basic procedural step like talking to people who were there wasn't adequately addressed or explained, well, what else might have been overlooked?
Or maybe just deemed too inconvenient to explore fully.
Exactly. It forces you, really, to become a more critical reader of these things, to scrutinize not just what is being said in official reports, but maybe more importantly, what isn't being said.
And asking why it isn't being said.
Precisely. The why becomes crucial.
Okay, so just to recap the core unresolved issue we've unpacked here, we have Charles Strange's very direct, very specific question to the Pentagon. Why weren't Afghans interviewed in the Extortion 17 post-crash investigation? And the upshot, based on our sources, is that despite that direct query, a clear, clarified answer was, by their own initial admission and then subsequent inaction, simply never provided.
That seems to be the takeaway from the source material. The question was asked, acknowledged as valid, but the answer never came.
And this leaves us and you listening with a final thought to really chew on.
Okay.
When critical, specific questions, especially from those directly, devastatingly affected by a tragedy like this, remain unanswered by official bodies, it's not just a personal failure for those families, is it?
No, it feels much bigger than that.
So what is the wider impact, the systemic impact on public trust, on our collective understanding of events?
And following from that, what responsibility does that then place on all of us as informed citizens? Does it mean we have a duty to keep asking those tough questions, to keep pushing for genuine accountability, even when it's difficult?
Even when the answers aren't forthcoming, it's a challenging question itself.
It certainly is something to really consider.